So my name is Zoe Clark. I'm Senior Self-Management Programme Officer here at NASS, and I'm very happy this evening to be joined by Jamie Boder, yoga teacher, and you'll probably be familiar with him from Yoga for AS. Hi Jamie, how are you?
Hi Zoe, I'm well, thanks. Great to be here and lovely to be with you all, NASS members.
Thanks so much for coming again. For people who are familiar with our sessions, you may have seen Jamie's previous session with Jeff last year, so we're really glad you're back this evening. And I think this will be a popular session because Jamie's doing a session all about yoga for fatigue, which is a really common symptom of AS and axial SpA. So for everyone who's joining, if you'd like to take part live in the session, then just make sure you've got a small space that's nice and clear around you. Grab a cushion, a blanket and a seat if you have one nearby as well, so you're all prepared for the session. I mean, while people are joining, Jamie, do you want to tell us a little bit about yourself and about Yoga for AS?
Yeah, absolutely. So I guess the first thing to say is I have AS myself, and with that obviously comes an understanding of what it's like to live with AS. A few years back, I co-founded with Jeff, who you may have met. He's also got AS, and we formed Yoga for AS, so an organisation teaching and educating people about how you can safely adapt and modify yoga for your AS. Yoga's helped me massively, and I'm really passionate about sharing it with others, and that's why I'm excited to introduce this session today, because fatigue, again, as Zoe said, is something that many people, everyone I've ever spoke to, every student I've ever worked with has experienced AS. Not experienced AS, they've experienced fatigue at some point along their journey. And I think it's really important to find and be equipped with tools that can really help. So hopefully through my experience of what I've learned that's helped, and doing so with other people that have also come back and said, yeah, this has helped, it can actually make people feel more empowered to have those tools to know what to do when they wake up and they're feeling fatigued, or it's the afternoon and they're really feeling that, and knowing what can help.
Thank you so much, and I'm looking forward to giving this session a go myself, probably tomorrow morning or tomorrow afternoon when I'm flagging a little bit. I've got to keep an eye on the comments and the questions tonight, but I'll definitely catch up afterwards. So if anyone would like to do the same, where if you can't join the whole session, or if you'd like to just watch the session live and then try it afterwards, you're more than welcome to, because the video does stay on our Facebook page, and we'll also upload it onto our webpage, My AS My Life, and our YouTube as well. So I think we're almost ready to go. I can see quite a few people joining. Hi to Christina, thanks for joining this evening. And before I hand over to Jamie, just to let you know, if you want to sign up to our e-news, you'll get all the latest news about the upcoming Facebook Lives. And in the video description, we also have links for Yoga for AS. So if you want to learn more about the team or join the classes, then do follow those links in the description. So are you ready if I hand over to you for the session, and then we'll come back and answer questions at the end?
Yeah, absolutely. Let's do it.
Wonderful. So I'll hand over to you and I'll disappear for a bit.
Thanks, Zoe. So welcome everyone who is joining live, and welcome to those watching this outside of the live stream. So I'm going to just break down the session today shortly. I'm going to give you a little bit of housekeeping of things you'll need, just in case you didn't hear Zoe earlier, if you're just joining now, and then we'll get started. So there's 3 practices I'm going to introduce you to today, and they might be things you might not be familiar with. People sometimes have a conception of yoga as being a very active practice with lots of movement, and we're going to be introducing the other side of yoga. There's many parts to yoga, and we're going to be exploring some breath work, some breathing exercises. We're going to be exploring some restorative yoga, and then finally a practice called yoga nidra, which all of these encompass one key aim, which is the relaxation response. So what really blew my mind when I first discovered how fatigue really worked was, I used to think that in order to feel less fatigue, I would have to do more energizing practices, so things that really amp me up and get me going. But in fact, many of the reasons why fatigue can really give us lots of issues is because we have a stress response, this fight-flight response that can happen very easily from overstimulation. That can just be from our daily lives, daily stress, but also our bodies, if it's dealing with inflammation, can also go into that fight-flight response. And that can be one of the reasons, there's many reasons why fatigue can occur. So it then makes sense to say, okay, well, what if we did the opposite? What if we train the body to go into the relaxation response, which is in scientific terms called the parasympathetic part of our autonomic nervous system. I'm not going to go too far into the science today, but what's quite fascinating is we can have both automatic control over either being in the fight, flight, or the parasympathetic, the rest and digest section of this autonomic nervous system, but we can also have conscious control over it. And that's why these practices are evidence informed to be able to turn down the dial of that stress response, go into that restful response, and as a consequence, we feel better. The fatigue can feel reduced. We just feel generally better. Our well-being is improved. And if we do this regularly, it also can help to improve our ability to drop into that rest response. So that's all what we're aiming for today. That's what we're going to be focusing on. So enough talking, I think we should get to it. Housekeeping, pillows, cushions, blankets are your friends today, and so is a chair. Make sure that it's not going to slip around on a non-slip surface. Ideally, having the chair up against the wall or something where it's really not going to move. For the sake of the angle today, I'm going to keep the chair here, but otherwise I would use it against the wall. And finally is some sort of strap or belt. It doesn't really matter what it is. It doesn't have to be a special yoga strap or anything like that. Anything that you can sort of tie. And if you don't have one laying around, don't worry. I'll show you a couple alternatives otherwise. So we're going to start with some breathing and introduce you to one simple practice today. So we're going to begin by coming to a comfortable seat. I'd recommend noticing if you're dropping that midsection of the spine back and slouching. By placing a couple of pillows underneath pelvis, you can allow for yourself to be a little bit more upright. But the key is comfort, and that goes for the whole practice. You are your best yoga teacher, really. You know, I'm giving you guidance, but the key is do what makes you feel most comfortable. So I'm going to introduce you to a very simple breathing exercise today, which has been shown to help to turn the dial down when it comes to stress and get that relaxation response going. So before we do that, we're just going to think about how we're breathing. So placing the left hand on the belly and the right hand on the chest. And without any thought, through the nose, I just want you to take a breath in. And a breath out. Now notice where you felt the breath move. Did you feel it in the chest or the abdomen? If you felt it in the abdomen, then you're already there. If you felt that you were breathing quite a lot into the chest, we want to see if we can breathe through our diaphragm and breathe into the belly. So instead of breathing into the chest, you can think about this left hand being pushed away as you inhale like a balloon. The belly expands. And as you exhale, you feel that left hand move closer in. So I'll just turn to the side so you can see the inhale, belly moves out, exhale, belly moves in. So that's what we're going to be aiming for whilst we're doing this exercise today. We're going to be doing a practice called box breathing. It's very simple. We wanted to just keep it basic today. 4 parts to a box, or we can call it square breathing, 4 parts to a square. Inhale, hold, exhale, hold. So we're going to be inhaling for the count of 4, holding for the count of 4, exhaling for the count of 4, and then holding for the count of 4. So the key here is not to be forcing the breath. If you feel that 4 is too much, drop down to 2, 3, or you can take it further, going up to 6 or 7. The key is that you're not forcing, it's not competition. In fact, we want to breathe as quietly and as controlled as possible. So we're going to begin in a moment. I'm going to do the first couple of rounds with you, and then you'll do it in your own time. So whenever you're ready, you can have the hand back on the belly and the hand on the chest, focusing on breathing into that belly. Just taking a deep breath to begin before we start. Longest breath of your day so far. And then just letting out a sigh. So let's begin now to inhale for 2, 3, 4. Hold the breath. 2, 3, 4. Exhale. 2, 3, 4. And hold. 2, 3, 4. Inhale. Hold. Exhale. And hold. Inhale. Continue in your own time now. So noticing the pauses, what's going on in the holds, perhaps thoughts are coming up, emotions are coming up, and doing your best to just focus on the counts, focus on each section. If you're someone who likes a bit of imagery, you can imagine as the inhale happens, you're drawing a line upwards. As you hold, you're drawing a line to the right. As you exhale, you're drawing a line down. And as you hold, you're filling back to the left. So you're drawing a square. And if you would like to further go into that relaxation response, you can exhale for the count of 6 or 8. The key is not overdoing it. You don't have to do this, but if you would like to explore a further exhalation, then go for it. It's that extended exhalation, a quiet, extended exhalation that drops the body into the relaxation response. So we're going to be here for a few more minutes. If you can, continually breathing through the nose, and that goes throughout this session. Nasal breathing is, again, a more helpful approach when it comes to the relaxation response. But do your best. It really comes down to what feels right for you today. So just go through one more. And then after the last round, take another deep breath, longest breath of your day so far, even longer than before. When you reach the top, let out a long, extended sigh. Sounds embarrassing, sounds weird, but those sighs are great. Another thing to keep in mind, that you should never feel that sighs should be avoided. Sighs are a good thing. Again, it's a natural way for the body to maintain that restful response. So, very basic introduction to just one practice. There's hundreds of breathing exercises we can do, all have slightly different variations and slightly different physiological effects. But this one is used by Navy SEALs and firefighters to stay calm in stressful situations. It's been adopted by people from those professions because it's so effective and simple. So that's why I introduced it to you today. So next practice is some restorative yoga. Before we go through it, I just want to kind of perhaps open you up to a different side of yoga where we're not doing any muscular engagement. We're not really contracting the muscles. It's a case of finding a position that's comfortable for you and then becoming very passive, allowing yourself to just be in that position. And restorative yoga is a really fantastic practice to do when you're feeling a lot of fatigue, because let's be honest, when fatigue is high, the idea of going and doing some really vigorous exercise or even moderate exercise, even going for a walk, can seem overwhelming. But this practice is one that you can just roll out of bed and do. You can even do it in bed. So that's why it's a really accessible practice. So we're only going to do 2 poses today, but we're going to be there for quite some time. And we'll have a lot of time to go through them. The first one we're going to do is called legs up the wall. So I'm going to just move my chair out of the way for a moment. I'll bring it back in a minute. And I'm going to show you what you need. Before you do it, I would watch first so you're familiar, and then you don't have to kind of look and see what's going on. You can just get into it. Okay, so a blanket close to the wall, about 1 foot away from the wall, or about a ruler's width from the wall, a ruler's length, should I say. And then a pillow or a couple of pillows, and this will be for the head. So get those ready, and then also, if you do have one, a strap. If you don't, it's not that important for this particular pose. So what we want to do now is, in your own way that feels right for you, come to have your hips facing the wall. Right hip or left hip, doesn't matter, because we're going to come up the same way. So if you're doing it with the right hip parallel to the wall, you're going to come to lie down. And then from that position, you take one hand on the wall, one hand on the floor, and gently rotate until you have now your head resting on some pillows, the buttocks supported by a blanket or 2, and having the legs still with a nice gentle bend. We don't want to have the legs completely straight. This is a really good stretch for the hamstrings by having, the legs actively engaged. But for here, we're not so much. It's not so important. We're just coming to a comfortable position. And if you do have the strap, sometimes the legs can just begin to open, and we want to just keep them hip distance apart. You can use a strap to avoid them splaying open. You can see if you need any more layers, a blanket over you, any more props for the head. You want to notice if the chin is dropping back. If the chin is dropping back, that's a sign you may need some more pillows, or to readjust the head slightly so you feel a slight double chin. You can also have some cushions for the shoulders. The whole of the spine can be supported by blankets if that feels right. As I said, I'm here to guide you, but you need to say and ask yourself, is there anything else I need to become comfortable here? In the same way, when you go to bed at night, you think to yourself what you need: some more blankets, less blankets, the window open, the window closed, getting the lights all off. Whatever that means for you is the same approach here. It's saying, what do I need? And we're going to be here for quite some time. About 3 to 5 minutes. And you can always bend the knees more. If it begins to feel a little bit intense in the legs. At the moment, my hands are resting on the abdomen. You can have the hands resting by your side. Or even if you want a bit of an opening in the chest, you can take the arms out into a kind of T shape. So just enjoying some stillness here. If you need to move or do any adjustments, that's fine. It's very normal if your mind begins to wander and drift. You just gently bring yourself back to how you're feeling in the body, where you're feeling. Noticing if there's any areas that you can begin to soften. Perhaps the face, the muscles in the face softening. The jaw. The shoulders and the belly. Whenever we have the knees above the heart, above the area around the heart, it has a calming effect on the body. And again, helping to move us into that relaxation response. And if you're still feeling agitated, stressed, or for any reason anxious, remember the breath is a powerful tool to use in addition. Something as simple as inhaling for 2, exhaling for 4, or inhaling for 4 and exhaling for 6, or even 8. It's not about how long we do, how hard we push, it's simply having an extended exhalation. So if you're inhaling for 2, exhale for 4. If you're inhaling for 4, exhale for 8 or 6 is fine as well. Allowing yourself to sigh, wish. Good to see if there's been any messages from Zoe. If there was any questions about this particular pose, just wanted to check in. But we're all good. So be here for about 30 more seconds. Okay, so whenever you're ready, begin to bend the knees more.
You can hug the knees into the chest gently and then rolling onto whichever side you prefer. And then in your own time, gently pressing yourself up to the seat. You can come up to sit just to see the next position I'm going to take you through. And then you can go back to the next pose. So the next one we're going to do is going to be a laying chest opener. It's also going to open up the thoracic spine. It's a very gentle restorative pose in which we have a rolled up blanket. So any rolled up blanket into a kind of sausage shape, and having that on the, if you're thinking the mat, or if you're not using a mat, if you can imagine you're thinking a couple of feet up the mat, that's where it wants to be. We want something for the head, a couple of pillows, and then we're going to come to lie back onto this rolled up blanket. Now, a good way to think about it is under the shoulder blades, or if you think about where the breastbone and sternum is, you can think about if you were to draw a line around, it's that part of the spine that we want to lie back. So, finding a position for the head as well, and once again, we can tie a belt or strap between the thighs. There's nothing inherently wrong with the knees opening wide, but when we hold a position for a long time, especially with AS, sometimes that open, wide-legged position can have a little cramping effects on the SI joints. So instead, having the knees hip distance is probably more optimal for most. But you can always, if you don't have a strap, allow the knees to gently drop into one another. So for a little bit more intensity, you can have the arms into a cactus shape. For less, you can have the arms by the side. And if you feel like you need a little bit more underneath the spine, you can place another rolled up blanket or something, as I'm doing here, a pillow, for a little bit more. The key is not doing as much as you think you need. It's just finding a position that's nice, comfortable, that feels good. Noticing if the chin is dropping back, just having a gentle tuck. So here we are, knowing that there's nothing that you need to do except just be with this position. Once you're in the pose, there's no expectation of what to do except just allow yourself to be yourself. And if you wish, you can come back to that extended exhalation. Sighs are welcome. I'm going to be here for 30 more seconds. Doing really well. Maybe you're ready, as we did before, rolling onto one side, and then gently taking as long as you need to come up into a seat of your choice. So
a very short introduction to restorative yoga. A whole session, 30 minutes, an hour, even a 15-minute one, or like a 10-minute one that we did today is a great thing to add to your toolkit. So what I'm going to introduce you next is, in my opinion, the most powerful yoga practice for helping with fatigue. So it's a practice called yoga nidra. What it involves in a logistical sense is lying down or coming to a comfortable position and then being guided through a specific form of relaxation that induces a similar state to sleep, but you're not fully sleeping. So your mind is aware, but your body is completely asleep. And why this can be so helpful is when we sleep, we have different levels of rest during the night, but sometimes if we're dealing with stiffness or pain, things that keep us up during the night, that deep rest that can really make us feel restored the next day sometimes is diminished. This practice helps to train the body into deep rest, and that's why I believe it's so powerful. There's some research coming out at the moment, some neuroscience papers on yoga nidra, and I'm excited to this being more applicable and widely used, but I'm excited to share it with you because I think it's brilliant and it's helped loads of my students out as well. So let's get practicing, let's get to it. I'm going to give you two options, but there's a third option, which is, I'm going to say now, find a position that is most comfortable for you, that you can really be fully comfortable in. I could give you loads of ideas, but the reality is everyone's different and we'll find one position different from another. But I'm going to give you two, which usually one of these two will be helpful. If there's someone who struggles to lie down for a long period of time in one position, then I recommend having a pillow between the thighs. You can even have a strap between the thighs and a pillow as well. And then coming close to the wall, having a pillow for the back of the head. And that can be one option. You can allow yourself to lean back into it as well, as long as it's a sturdy chair. Other option is legs up the chair, which many really enjoy and find it beneficial just in of itself. It's a really relaxing position. You want to have a chair, ideally with a backrest, which I don't have, but you're going to use a pillow if you don't have a backrest up there. So you want to come to lie down and then taking the legs up the chair and using a strap between the thighs to avoid the knees falling open. And then you want to have the knees above the hips. So wiggling back until the knees are stacked above the hips, and then finding a position for the head with the arms by your side. You can get blankets on. You can even put over something over the eyes if you're someone who likes using sort of eye masks and things. The key is finding a really comfortable position. So taking a couple of minutes to do that. Whilst you're doing that, I'm going to just introduce a little bit more about yoga nidra before I take you through it. So yoga nidra is an ancient technique that progressively trains the body to go deeper into a very relaxed and restful state. As I said, similar to sleep. The thing to keep in mind when approaching this is don't expect anything from yourself. You might fall asleep. There's no right way to approach this. I'm simply here to give you a yoga nidra session, but by all means, there's no right way for you to complete the session. There's no tick, except being in a position that's comfortable for you and just listening to the sound of my voice. So, as I said, very accessible. You don't have to be doing anything in any particular way. So if you start to get questions thinking, wonder what the right thing to do is here or here, just allow yourself that time. That's all there is. So I'm going to guide you through it shortly, and I'm going to turn my camera off
because I want to get really close to the camera so the audio is good, and then I'll turn my camera back on. So, hopefully by now you've found a position that feels right for you. Find any last movements or adjustments. As I welcome you to this practice of Yoga Nidra with the intention of release, facilitating deep rest. Beginning by softening the eyes, lowering your gaze, or perhaps closing them. And imagining now that above the crown of the head, in your mind, above the crown of the head is a golden bright light. A golden bright light above the crown of the head. And you can imagine this light having the energy of the sun, full of vitality and energy. And in a moment, I will guide you through different parts of the body from the head to the toes. And when I mention those areas, you can imagine bringing that energy of the sun into the cells of your body, knowing that you have complete control over how much you take in. So moving your attention now to the crown of the head, moving down into the forehead, the temples, the right side of the temple, the left side, moving down into the eyebrows, the space between the eyebrows, lowering into the space around the eyes, softening the eyelids, moving down into the jaw, allowing the tongue to drop from the roof of the mouth and the jaw to hang heavy. Perhaps the teeth separate. And then moving your awareness down into the chin and throat. And from the throat, moving down into the collarbones. And from the collarbones down to the chest. And then from the chest down to the belly. And then taking a deep breath into the belly, chest. And then as you exhale, holding your awareness in the collarbones. And then from the collarbones, moving around into the shoulders. From the right side of your shoulder, moving down the right arm. Upper arm, elbow, forearm, wrist, palm, and fingers. And then back up, palm, wrist, elbow, upper arm, right shoulder, and then around to the left, moving from the left shoulder down, the upper arm, elbow, forearm, palm, and fingers. And then moving back up into the palm, wrist, elbow, upper arm, and left shoulder. From the left shoulder, moving into the neck, up to the very top of the neck, taking a deep breath here. And then on the exhale, moving your awareness down the neck,
and then down the rest of the spine, as if you're walking down a staircase. Imagining each step down the staircase is one part of the spine. And as you walk down the spine, each step, perhaps feeling yourself supported more and more by the floor beneath you. Eventually reaching the bottom of the spine, the base of the spine, and then bringing your awareness into the pelvis. Sit bones, buttocks, hips, and then moving down the front of the right leg, the back of the right leg, right knee, calf, shin, heel, top of the right foot, sole of the right foot, and the right toes. Moving back up to the right ankle, calf, shin, knee, front of the right leg, back of the right leg, and back into the right hip. And then around to the left hip, down the left leg, front of the left leg, back of the left leg, left knee, calf, shin, heel, top of the left foot, sole of the left foot, and the toes of the left foot. Both legs together now, moving all the way back up into the pelvis and then into the abdomen. Noticing the rise and fall of your breath. And then moving back up into the chest, the area of the heart. And as you find yourself inhaling, counting 1, as you find yourself exhaling, counting 2, inhale for 3, then 4, and then as you inhale on 5, you go back down from the inhale of 5, back to 4, inhale for 3, back to 2, inhale for 1, and back to 0. So counting the breath up to 5 and then back down to 0. Now, stopping the counting and imagining in your mind you've just entered a forest, a deep and beautiful forest. And as you look up at the tall, strong trees, you see that golden, bright light beaming into the forest and illuminating the forest. And in this forest you see a chair, a seat, a welcoming, warm place to rest. And you decide to perhaps sit down. And the moment you sit down, feeling the body move deeper
into rest, feeling more calm, relaxed, safe, and in control. You find yourself so relaxed in this forest with the bright golden lights, the bright golden lights, the bright golden lights. You perhaps decide to lie down in this comfortable seat and lay across, feeling even more relaxed here and now. In this warm space, in this safe, comforting place of the warm golden forest, you decide now to begin to transition, coming back, welcoming back, noticing the feeling of your body resting, supported by the ground beneath you, a feeling of perhaps heaviness or lightness in the body. Perhaps noticing your breath and beginning to move the breath. Some deeper breaths here. Noticing contact between your body and the floor or the body in the chair, or wherever you are. Picturing the room you're in, the colours of the walls, the furniture, the shapes, the sounds. And from the count of 10, when I reach 0, beginning to move a little bit as well. So from 10 to 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. Beginning to take some deep breaths, wiggling the toes, ankles, wrists. Perhaps some more expansive movements. Arms open, up overhead. Some sighs, some yawns, as you begin to welcome yourself back to here and now. If you were laying down, beginning to roll onto one side, holding yourself on your side, taking as long as you need. Keeping the gaze lowered, the eyes soft, as you find a comfortable seat. Welcoming yourself back, taking a moment to take the hands, rub the hands together, until you start to feel some warmth in the hands. Keeping the eyes soft. And then placing the hands over the eyes and blinking the eyes open. Moving the hands down into your chest and acknowledging yourself as this practice of Yoga Nidra is now complete. As is the session today is completed. So thank you for joining, so we can have some questions and chats and go through the session.
Hi Jamie, I feel relaxed just from watching. We've got lots of people joining in, lots of thumbs up. As I thought right at the beginning, we were discussing before we went live that we'd probably have lots of people watching, but not very many comments. And that was exactly it, because I think everyone's just completely relaxed. So for everyone watching, as you come back to the here and now, please do pop any questions for Jamie in the comments, because we have a few minutes where he can answer any questions you have about yoga, particularly yoga for Axial SpA. So please do let us know. We've got a few comments coming in thanking you for the session, and we've got a wow. Susie thinks she fell asleep, which I imagine that's quite common, is it?
It is. It's, you know, very common, and I've been there many times.
I suppose it's a good sign that you're completely relaxed. And Catherine has said that she'll try the practice next time her insomnia hits. That's a really great idea.
Absolutely, it's a practice you can do any time of day, and you know, you can repeat it. It's, you know, something you can just pop on and do. So there's no special equipment or no special place you need to do it in, just somewhere you can relax and listen.
Perfect. And I know we were chatting at the beginning and you said this practice this evening would be particularly helpful for people with axial SpA fatigue and very adaptable to that as well. And I think the way you explained the different positions and the different adaptations you can make, you know, no matter how your axial SpA affects you, hopefully there's some ways that you've been able to adapt things that you're comfortable and able to join in.
That's exactly it. When it comes to adapting yoga for AS, it's not really so much about doing a certain pose in a certain way. It's knowing that there's a pose that exists and then seeing, what do I need to be able to access this pose? Do I need more props? Do I need more cushions? Do I need to do it on a chair? Do I need to do it differently in order to get the same benefits? Because it is an accessible practice when people are showed that, oh, wait, I can do this. And that's, you know, what we really get across, hopefully, in our classes and our sessions when we're working with other people with AS.
Absolutely, yeah. And we've linked to your YouTube channel in the video description as well. So for anyone who's wanting to look at other areas that you can focus on, then do take a look. You've got loads of different videos.
Sorry, just something went down the wrong way. should be drinking tea, really. Yeah. After all that talking, I thought it would clear it up, you know, but it did the opposite, so there you go.
So I'll give you a chance to have a breather. I'll catch up on some of these comments as well. So Richard said thank you for that. He's feeling shattered now. So hopefully the energizing will come in afterwards. It might just be the time of day though.
Yeah.
And Anya has said, thank you, that was great. I came straight from another meeting, so hopefully I'll have increased energy now. And she really liked and enjoyed the explanations you gave behind the restorative yoga and the yoga nidra as well. So we haven't got any questions so far. It seems like you've just chilled everyone out.
Well, that's all good. If people do have any sort of questions, you know, do put them in, especially if there's kind of any aspects that you'd like to learn more about. I briefly touched on the science as kind of simply as possible throughout the session, but if you would like to know a little bit more about why it's helpful, how it can actually affect the body on a sort of physiological level, and if you're into that sort of stuff, you can ask those sort of questions. But whilst we're waiting for questions to come in, I think what I can kind of talk to is hopefully what you'll get away from this session is we know that movement, exercise is important for AS. It's, you know,
very, very important, and we've established that, and NASS promote that very often. But I think it's really important to consider that when we're experiencing fatigue and it's at a very high level, that there is something we can do that will help to make us feel better in order to then function for the rest of the day. And I think that's the key takeaway. It's not about saying, oh, I should be going and exercising today, but there's these things. It's not about being induced with feelings of guilt or shame that you're not up to exercising or doing anything in a certain way. It's actually saying, hey, like, I need something now. I need to take some time out for just 5 minutes, 10 minutes, or like that yoga nidra, you know, I don't know how long that was, 16, 17 minutes. And as a consequence, be able to continue on with the day and feel better. That's what it's all about, you know? So just thought I'd speak to that because I think it's a really empowering way to look at it, because I think it's very difficult to exercise when you're experiencing a lot of fatigue. So what you can sometimes do is do a practice like this and then say, hey, you know what, I'm going to go out for a walk after that because I feel more energized. And then it has a good knock-on effect.
Absolutely. Yeah, I totally agree with that. Just listening to your body and being kind to yourself. And I suppose for people like Rich, who he commented saying he's feeling sleepy now, I suppose an added benefit then is, you know, if it doesn't necessarily give that immediate energy, if it helps you to sleep better, so it's something you can do before sleep, and helps you sleep better, then naturally you'll have more energy, hopefully, you know, the next day, or if it continues for a long time. Yeah,
it's exactly that. I mean, all of these practices, there's hundreds of practices that are restorative in sort of within the branch of yoga, and it's all training the body to go into that rest and digest state, moving out of that fight flight. And if we do that as a practice, the body then becomes more adapted to do that outside of the yoga. When it goes to bed at night, it goes, hey, I can actually relax a little bit quicker. I can drop into that rest more readily. And it has that knock-on effect.
Absolutely. And I think particularly in this day and age where we've just got constant bombardment of different things, it can be really difficult or really rare that you get into that proper rest and relaxation state.
Yeah. And it's our birthright, to be fair. You know, like our body has both. It makes use of that fight flight. We need it to do lots of things, but the sort of day and age we live in, it's under the other side to it. That rest and digest is sort of underutilized, and I think it's important to have something in our day that induces that. For thousands of years, traditions have always had some sort of practice to do that, and whether that be from a spiritual standpoint, from people in history, or from a cultural standpoint, there's always been something, but we've lost that in the last 100 years. So this is why I think it's really important to go back to these practices.
Absolutely, especially when you're dealing with pain and fatigue on a daily basis as well. We have a question from Natalie. She asks, how long is best to do a yoga session?
So it depends what yoga that might be. Obviously today we did lots of sort of short sessions, but in terms of the research evidence, we would say that 1 full hour a week and then 2 sessions of about 20 to 30 minutes throughout the week is enough to really see benefit. If you can do 2 hours a week and then 20 to 30 minutes, but that really is just based on research. But what I believe is 5 minutes a day is a brilliant place to start feeling the benefits from having some practice that makes you feel better. So that might be 5 minutes. It might be a full half an hour session. It depends what your time and your schedule's like, but I like to think about how you can structure your day and say, hey, I got 5 minutes spare, I'm going to go and do some breathing to get into that relaxation response. Or I used to have naps, and instead of naps, every day I do a yoga nidra instead. Same time, but I feel the yoga nidra is more beneficial than a nap. So that's kind of how I would approach it as well. And then if you do a full session, see if you can do it in a community, whether that be online and or in person, where you're doing something every week with people. It's social and it's more fun and enjoyable. So that would be my very long-winded answer to probably a quite simple question, but there you are. Hopefully that's helpful.
That's definitely helpful, and particularly for anyone who's new to yoga, I think that's really good to hear that, you know, just 5 minutes a day, even particularly if you're experiencing a lot of pain or you're really fatigued with your axial SpA, then it's not something you have to just suddenly join a class and do, you know, 1 or 2 full hours. You can just build it up slowly.
Absolutely. It's better to start that way as well, and then move from that place where you're more confident with, you know, the practice. But you can always join one of our classes as well, because we run a whole schedule each week online, and we do shorter practices as well, so you can get involved with that. So I'm sure Zoe will give you some links after the video as well.
Yeah, they're all in the video description. So we've got the calendar as well as the link to the membership as well, and your website too. So please do check those out, everyone. And I've just seen a lovely comment come in from Carol. She says, "I appreciate so much the warm, compassionate vibration that was so inclusive." That's lovely.
Yeah, that is lovely, and lovely to hear. That's what I'm all about. That's what Jeff's all about. We just want to make things inclusive, you know, and everyone should be able to find the benefit from any given practice. And yeah, it's at the forefront of sort of what I care about, is no one should ever feel left out from anything, especially in regards to doing something where you're committing to doing something for yourself. You deserve to be included and feel better as a consequence. So yeah,
absolutely. So before we draw things to a close, do you have any other final comments or anything?
Yeah, I've got a couple kind of very short, exciting updates. We're launching a virtual library in a few months' time. It's going to be, imagine Netflix, but for yoga, for people with AS. It's going to have a huge array of different content, pre-recorded content and programs for people to find, going back to being accessible, to find something that fits them. Some of them will be based upon certain topics like fatigue or practicing with a flare and how to manage that, or it can be, you know, full comprehensive programs which encompasses all of the yoga that we teach. So we're releasing that in a couple of months, so stay tuned, and please do get involved with a class with us. The first class is free, so you know, you don't have to commit to anything, but just try out our class, see how you get on. It's people all over the globe with AS practicing together. It's great. We have a class with people from Iceland and Australia and America and England, all with the same condition and practicing together. There's no judgment, there's no right and wrong. It's just like, let's come and do something, and everyone feels better as a consequence. And I think it's a really lovely thing. So I would give it a go and go from there, really. And you can always check out our free YouTube tutorials. We've got a Facebook group. It's got nearly 3,000 members, all people with AS. And yeah, it's just get that positive community together where it's about sharing practice of yoga together for AS. Yeah.
It really is an incredible community you guys have built. It's really lovely to see it grow, and yeah, hopefully everyone watching will take a look and get involved.
Yeah, absolutely. And next month, Jeff is doing a session on necks, so stay tuned for that.
He is, yeah, that's on the 9th of Feb, neck pain and stiffness. So if you're feeling any tightness in your neck and shoulders, then be sure to join Jeff for that session. Brilliant. Wonderful. So I have last quick look for questions. No, I think we're okay. We're on a slight delay, but I think hopefully I've not missed anyone. Yeah, so everyone who's watching, thank you so much for watching and for joining in live as well. If you've joined partway through, then do check back when the live is finished and you can rewatch from the beginning as well. And next week, our session is on Wednesday, the 19th of Jan at 1 p.m. And I'll be joined by Lara Wiseman, who's a life coach, and she'll be going through some emotional well-being and relaxation techniques and different techniques to cope with anxiety and overwhelming feelings as well. So I think that's everything. Thanks again, Jamie, so much. Really appreciate the time this evening. And I'm definitely going to be trying that yoga nidra before bed tonight.
Yeah, do it. great to be here, and yeah, thanks for having me on, and look forward to the next one. And yeah, just keep doing what you're doing, NASS, and we love you.
Right back at you.
Thanks a lot.
Wonderful. Take care, everyone. Good night.
Cheers.